Hi, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at some end of the week polling. We've got more on Ohio and Missouri, but first we're going to go back and take a look at Alaska. Now, earlier in the week, I already covered ranked choice voting in Alaska and how it might be repealed this November, and I took a look at the matchup between Biden and Trump. But now we've got the same poll from Data for Progress, and now we've got some favorability polling as well as a head-to-head matchup in the U.S. House. So as I always say, it's just one poll, and maybe you're not a fan of this particular pollster, but let's see what the data shows. The headline suggests Peltola is the most popular politician in Alaska, but she still faces a competitive race. So here's the favorability ratings for Alaska politicians. Peltola is at a net 10-point favorable, 51 to 41. U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan is at 48 to 45. Their other senator, Lisa Murkowski, is up 2, 50 to 48. Governor Dunleavy is also up just 2, 49 to 47. Nick Begich III, who's expected to go head-to-head against Peltola in the U.S. House, his favorables are even, 40 positive, 40 negative. Donald Trump is at just -1, 49 positive, 50 negative. Lieutenant Governor Nancy Dahlstrom, she's at -7, 14 favorable, 21 unfavorable. So clearly her name recognition is significantly lower than everybody else. Now we've got President Biden. He is at a massive -26, 36 favorable, 62 unfavorable. So with ranked choice voting in the general election, after the first two rounds, it does get down to just Nick Begich and Mary Peltola. And in that final round, it's dead even, 50 to 50. So on a federal level, this is a moderately red state, and even though Peltola is reasonably popular, it doesn't look like she's just going to walk away with a victory. If you scroll down, this poll does ask about some other issues more local to Alaska, and then there's some crosstabs for this U.S. House election. The most interesting one is going to be the one at the bottom, and that 50-50 tie. Independents are leaning toward Peltola, 60 to 40. Begich has a significant lead among no-college voters, while Peltola has an even bigger lead with college voters. With the racial or ethnic breakdown, American Indian or Alaskan Native is pretty much split, but it looks like they actually go toward Begich by 2 points, 51 to 49. That's almost identical to white voters, 52 Begich, 48 Peltola. And this poll was conducted February 23rd to March 2nd. It used 1,120 likely voters using SMS and web panel respondents. They also weight the sample, and the margin of error is ±3 points. And down under that, you have even more detailed crosstabs for some of the other questions. So we've got some good stuff here in Alaska. Peltola is popular, but against Begich in the general election, it looks like it's still a pure toss-up. Let's go on to another state we've already talked about this week, and that is Ohio. The primary is coming up Tuesday, so let's take a quick look at that U.S. Senate primary and also in the general election. This poll is from the Institute for Civics and Public Policy at Ohio Northern University. It was a web-based poll with over 1,200 likely voters, and there's a margin of error of ±3.3. So here's that GOP Senate primary. This has a lot of undecided still, 44%. After that, the Trump-endorsed Bernie Moreno is in the lead with 22. Matt Dolan is at 18. Frank LaRose 16. So with that many undecideds, I would say this race is still up for grabs. Given it's an open primary, anything could happen. It seems like the late breakers might go toward Moreno, but either way, we've got a competitive three-way race. Now after this, all the attention is going to turn to the general election. Republicans eyeing a flip and a pickup against Sherrod Brown. So how do these candidates do against Brown? Well, right now, Brown is leading all three, but he is in the low to mid 40s. Against Bernie Moreno, he leads by 6, 43 to 37, 20% undecided. Against Matt Dolan, he's up by 3, 42 to 39. And against Frank LaRose, he's up by 8, 44 to 36. Trump won this state by 8, so I would not want to be Sherrod Brown, but at the same time, I would not want to be the guy to lose to Sherrod Brown. What about between Biden and Trump? Well, it's kind of a blowout. Trump is ahead by 12, 50 to 38. If you make it a three-way race with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., then it's still a 12-point race. Trump leads 44 to Biden's 32. Kennedy pulls in 13 with 11% undecided. So for president, it looks like Ohio is pretty much off the table for Biden. In the Senate, though, it's a different story. The Trump turnout could carry that Republican over the top, but Sherrod Brown could also squeak by with a narrow victory. So a lot of time left. We'll see how it shapes up in a few months. The poll also asks about Biden's age and Trump's legal issues. You can look at that down here if you'd like, and as always, all the links will be down below in the description. Now let's move on to another state we don't talk about too often, and that is going to be Missouri. Here we've got a St. Louis University YouGov poll. This is with 900 likely voters. They've got a Senate and a governor's race coming up this fall. For governor, we've got 52% 40% of Missouri voters intend to support the Republican candidate in the governor's election. 38% are going toward the Democrat. So it looks good for the Republicans there. However, they do have to get through a primary. And it's not a sure thing, but 28% are leaning toward Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft. Of course, he is the son of former Governor and Senator John Ashcroft. 10% go toward Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. For the Democrats, 21% are leaning toward House Minority Leader Crystal Quaid. Now, they also poll about some policy views for Missouri. They ask about things such as abortion, sports betting, and the death penalty. Generally, those issues have support or agreement. Then we've got approval ratings. Biden is at 37. Governor Mike Parson is at 52. And Senator Josh Hawley is at 50. Down below, there's more detail about these specific policy questions from above. But let's quickly glance at some general election polling. For that, we'll go over to Wikipedia. Now, there were two recent Missouri polls on here. The other one is behind some sort of a paywall. But in the likely general election matchup between Jay Ashcroft and Crystal Quaid, Ashcroft is ahead by 17, 53 to 36. That Ashcroft name carries a lot of weight in the state. So anything could happen, but it looks like the governor's race might be out of reach again for the Democrats here. The slightly more competitive race should be for U.S. Senate between Josh Hawley and Lucas Kunce. Now, Hawley is, of course, the incumbent Republican. Kunce ran as a more progressive candidate just 2 years ago in that 2022 U.S. Senate election. He did lose in the Democratic primary. So last time he's the runner-up. This time it looks like he's going to be the nominee. And again, this same pollster, which was Remington Research Group that did the governor's election, Hawley is ahead by 14, 53 to 39. Generally, Hawley has a reasonably significant lead from the polls that are not Democratic aligned. I know Democrats would love to take out Hawley. Missouri is a tough state for them. It used to be competitive. It's gotten pretty red. Maybe Kunce can channel some sort of a populist messaging. But then again, Jason Kander lost to Roy Blunt back in 2016. He was supposed to be more electable and more moderate, but he still lost by almost 3 points. There's one other race that might be of note in Missouri, and that's going to be in the U.S. House in the 1st Congressional District. That's a deep blue district. It covers St. Louis, and that has the progressive Democrat incumbent Cori Bush. She's also going to be viewed as polarizing, and she is facing a primary challenge from Wesley Bell. And there's another recent poll from the same pollster, Remington Research, that shows Bell with a significant advantage. He's up by 22, 50 to 28. Now, this is just one poll for one side of a U.S. House race. I would expect a wider range of outcomes and margin of error, but if this is even close to accurate, then I would expect Cori Bush to be headed to defeat. This is not going to be at all competitive in the general election, but it's something to take a look at if you're into primaries, and I'm pretty sure the establishment Democrats would love to get rid of Bush, so we'll see what happens with that. But that's an overview of some polling in Alaska, Ohio, and Missouri. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of these polls in any of these states? How vulnerable is Peltola in Alaska? What about Sherrod Brown in Ohio? And is it possible there could be any upsets in Missouri? Well, let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.